Our communities keep getting hit hard by floods, and we're all asking, what can we do about it? There's an unexpected but powerful weapon that protects us from floods: native forests. Healthy native forests work like a giant sponge. When it rains, the trees and mosses and ferns soak up water and help it sink into the ground, up to 15 times faster than bare soil. Imagine this happening over thousands of acres in our mountains. Without these forests, rainwater runs off quickly and can cause disastrous floods. Unfortunately, we are losing these native forests, our natural sponge, because of invasive species. We've already lost more than half of our native forests, and the rest are still threatened. For example, in the mountains of Makiki, Manoa, and Pololo, 2 invasive plants, Albizia and Myconia, are causing a lot of harm. The damage isn't just to nature, it also affects neighborhoods and Waikiki, Hawaii's economic center.
Albizia is a fast-growing tree with weak wood, so its big branches break easily during storms. When they fall, they block streams, causing water to back up and flood neighborhoods. In 2004, a debris jam largely composed of Albizia limbs at the Woodlawn Bridge forced the stream out of its channel and resulted in $85 million in damages throughout the Alawai community, particularly for Manoa. Myconia is one of the world's worst invasive species. Its massive leaves catch rain and create big drops that hit the ground hard, causing more erosion. Both Albizia and Myconia block sunlight from reaching other plants, leaving patches of bare ground. Without plants covering the soil, the land can't soak up rainwater as quickly, so more water runs off and causes floods. Bare ground also means soil gets washed away, filling streams with mud, polluting beaches, and smothering coral reefs.
With funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and in partnership with the Department of Land and Natural Resources, Forestry and Wildlife, Ko'olau Mountain Watershed Partnership, and Oahu Invasive Species Committee, our team from University of Hawaii, hydrologists, geographers, planners, and economists set out to put the hard numbers on something we have long suspected, that invasive species make the flooding outcome worse. And here's what we did. First, we gathered decades of real data about rainfall, stream flow, and sediment in the stream. By comparing times before and after removing invasive plants, we saw that the clearing these plants led to the last water and last sediment in the stream. Second, we mapped out that where the Albizia and Myconia would spread if we stopped managing them for 10 years. The results were really worrying. Without action, these plants would take over much of our upper watershed. And third, we used this map in a detailed computer model, a digital twin of the watershed, to see how flood would change the most important thing in the flood, which is the damage during the peak flow, or the highest water level during a storm. The model shows that when invasive species take over, the peak flow gets higher, making the flood worse, and that means that it takes less rain to start a flood. And also more erosion happens. So while we cannot stop those heavy rain, we can control the peak flow by removing the invasive species and protecting the upper watershed. So finally, we look at how much flood damage would cause in both of the scenarios.
The economic results are striking. If Albizia and Myconia spread unchecked for just 10 years, expected annual flood damages would nearly double, from $68 million at present to $134 million per year. This is because those increased peak flows mean major flood events with large damages would become more frequent. So a really damaging flood that might have occurred every 10 years with a healthy watershed would happen closer to every 5 years. And while we are still working on our scientific sediment results, these also look to be costly. Myconia expansion can cause sediment in the Alawai Canal to accumulate twice as fast, forcing dredging roughly every 8 years instead of every 17 years, pushing annualized costs from $1.4 million to around $3 million.
Crews from the Oahu Invasive Species Committee and the Ko'olau Mountains Watershed Partnership are out in these mountains every day, searching for and removing invasive species and protecting our native forests. But their work relies almost completely on short-term grants. When the funding ends, we can't protect these forests, and the risk of severe, damaging floods goes up. We spend a lot of money on roads, pipes, and seawalls, but the evidence shows that protecting our forests is one of the most cost-effective ways to prevent floods. The health of our forests determines the quality of life for everyone on this island. Protecting the Alawai's native forests is an environmental priority and a fundamental requirement for a safe and resilient Oahu.